1991. It's been 30 years since the original debut of the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. And by December 1992, at a mere 10 years old, I had joined a side in what was to be the first in many console wars to come. And now, in 2021, we're on the plateau of the greatest resurgence in retro gaming popularity the industry has ever seen. And there have been a lot of companies trying to cash in on this, Nintendo included. However, most of these commercial attempts, ranging from cloned hardware to emulation-based, well, this, have fallen pretty short when compared to the original. So with that said, let's take a look at what happens when practicality is totally dismissed in favor of keeping with the original. My name is Downing, and this may very well be the world's first and probably only portable Super Nintendo powered by an internal SD2NES flash card. Now there are a few good reasons why I can feel comfortable laying claim to this. But first, let's take a look at what makes this portable unique, and why anyone in their right mind would not have built this. So what is the SNES Box Go? By definition, it is a handheld, fully portable gaming system that utilizes an original SNES Junior as a base, but instead of using game carts, games are loaded from an SD card via the SD2 SNES flash card. Now it might seem contrary to the original hardware creed by using an SD card in place of a cart, but the cool thing about using a flash cart like this is that nothing about this system is emulated, meaning the SNES can't tell the difference between the ROM on the SD card or a real cart, which makes for a perfect one-to-one experience for nearly 99% of the entire Super Nintendo library. So far, this sounds like a great option for making into a portable, but hang on. This is where the practicality aspect takes a jump off the deep end. First off, I can already hear the comments being typed, raging at me for taking an SNES Junior off the market.
What'd you do?
And this highlights the first main challenge facing retro console modding in the 2020s. With such a high demand now for retro tech, prices have soared in the past 5 years, making even getting an original console difficult to justify. On top of this, there's been a rise in opposition to console modding, stating that using finite hardware for this purpose is not acceptable. But that's a debate for another video. And while that first challenge was very general, these next few hurdles were all painful by choice. So aside from the consoles now being stupidly expensive, the SD2 SNES is no cheap trinket on its own. Now being branded as the FX Pack Pro, it still holds a price tag of around $200 US. There are cheaper versions available, but their compatibility is lacking quite a bit, which meant no Super Mario RPG, and that was a deal breaker to me. So, conservatively speaking, we're already $300 to $350 into this with just 2 components. You can see why this list of people who would do this grows small. But that's not all, my friends. Add in the display, speakers, batteries, and the custom power, audio, and controller circuitry, we're creeping into the $600 range for parts alone. Not to mention, this took nearly 100 hours to design, print, and build over a course of 4 months. But probably the biggest reason why this, to my knowledge, hasn't been done before is because this console does not fill any kind of commercially unavailable hole, so to speak. It's not like a portable N64 where there's no commercial option, and any emulation out there severely lacks as far as an enjoyable experience is concerned. But, to be all honest, most emulators would handle the SNES without issue, making an SBC like the Raspberry Pi a viable option. And there are plenty of portable SNES options already out there, so the motivation to build this kind of console to begin with just isn't there. But, if I'm wrong, and there is in fact another portable out there similar to this one, please share it with me. And for the second part of this video, I'd like to touch briefly on some of the specs and building methods that went into making it. We already know that we're running original SNES hardware, and that we're using an internal flash card to load and play ROMs. This base sits inside a custom 5-piece FDM 3D printed enclosure, which has gone through a whole finishing process. A process that involved printing, gluing, filling, sanding, priming, and painting. In addition to the FDM parts, which were printed on a Prusa MK2S, many of the fine featured buttons and covers were printed with a Form 2 SLA printer, with the actual face buttons later being reprinted on a Form 3. There are also several custom PCBs that range from power management to controller I/O. These, per usual, were designed by my friend RDC, though admittedly the only new PCB for this project was the controller board. The system is powered by two 3.7 volt 5000 milliamp lithium polymer batteries, wired in series for 7.4 volt output. This is then wired to a custom charger that supports play and charge. Battery life is around 4 hours on a full charge, and the stock 7805 regulator on the SNES has been replaced with a more efficient custom 5 volt switching regulator. There's a 5-inch 4:3 aspect ratio display to avoid major screen stretching, and for audio, it uses two 28mm Mylar speakers with a custom audio amp and switchable headphone jack. Last, I built a custom breakout box that was used for plugging in Player 2 and also a custom RCA cable for output to a TV. This connected to the console via USB 3.0 connector, which had enough pins for all the AV and controller connections I needed. And that pretty much wraps up this project, which is, without a doubt, the most extreme example of unnecessary over-engineering to ever come out of the basement. That being said, it's also still one of my most favorite builds, and I still enjoy playing it to this day. But as always, guys, please give a like and subscribe if you enjoyed the show, and be sure to check back for more content down the road. Thanks, guys. Later.